Okay. It also gave a few minutes for people to join us as well. So good numbers today. All right. Welcome, everyone. We are to another exciting episode of AirHeads. We asked people to think of some tips that you might be able to share, which is a good way of sharing knowledge. But every week we also have an opportunity. If you're wrestling with something right at the moment, this is the perfect opportunity. You're trying to do something, or is there another way of doing this? You want to just throw out, this is what I need to achieve. Is it possible? This is the place to do that. And that's always the priority. So even though we have some ideas about sharing tips and things like that, that comes secondary. Our first priority is to be available, everyone to be available to brainstorm and to share if you've got a particular thing that you're thinking about at the moment. So I open it to anyone. You could raise your hand, digital hand, unmute, go for it if you've got something you want to raise before anything else.
Go on. I'll do it.
I'm
keen. Well, I thought it was helpful. And then Fleur and Tracy said it wasn't that helpful. But I'm going to run with it. I shared it with the team earlier. No, I don't know about you guys. Of course, we've got workflow notifications in EA, and I think they're grossly underutilized in so many different ways, certainly from our organization. But we do something a little bit above and beyond that I just love. And I love it in context of when I'm producing, or I guess it's really relevant to any role. When you're on site and you've got just a few things on your mind, it's hard to see those notifications. It gets lost in the noise of emails and so forth. So instead, somewhere along the line, we thought, here's an idea. Let's just link it to our Slack channel just for another platform. Now we can filter them and you can turn notifications off. So there are certain things that I turn off or on when someone updates, whether it's a VIP speaker, whether I'm waiting on certain e-posters or whatever that might be, I'm getting those real-time notifications coming through on the API. So I love it. I've got a little widget that sits on my mobile phone, that sits at my desk. And so whenever those types of activities happen and someone's updated EA, or something's been uploaded, I just get a little summarized notification. It then goes another step further, and I'm sure you can relate to this. Sometimes it's hard to see where things had changed in EA. The auditing's not as detailed as perhaps I often want it to be. Who changed it and when? What's their name? I'll track them. We at least get a little audit saying, at this time, Lara's gone and updated the keynote speaker and their phone number, and it sends me a little summary. It was this and now it's this. And it's just a short little snippet that sits in my widget that I can just hit, okay, got that. And I just love it. It works really, really well on site. Granted, Fleur and Tracy, not so good at 2 a.m. when the system doesn't update and you get 700 minor updates from a very large event and it's ding, 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 ding. That could be annoying.
I've learned that one. Switch it off
switch it off at night, or when you right. But when it's time critical,
it's a really interesting concept. And so obviously coming into Warfly, it's new for me to see that, and I can really see the benefit. It's kind of Dior being Big Brother, in that he can see everything. So if I make a change, there's no way I can get away with doing anything. You did this at this time. But Dior, could you just explain, for the benefit of everyone else who maybe doesn't have the API, how it actually works? What is the technology that makes that happen? Because I think it's something would entice people to think about the API. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, sure. And Grant's laughing because he's thinking, oh, Dior's going to talk API now. Good on you, Dior. Good luck with that.
This will be good.
Grant designed it, so you're welcome to jump in at any time. But essentially, we've just got all the data coming over to a repository. We call it Airport, and all the data sits in there from all of our events. And there's a bunch of criteria that we've set up in there to say, if there's a change, give me in this particular view and only include these types of things. We can omit things out of the API. So when they made that API open for us, we just got excited and went, oh my God, we can access this and the contacts and the gear, and pretty well everything's in there. And so periodically from time to time, I might say to Grant, hey, we need to add X, Y, Z. And he goes, let me see if they've opened up that API in the field. And so by doing that, and then you go into, in our case, we chose Slack. It can be any number of third-party applications that accept API integration. And so you just connect to it, kind of standard routine to connect to that. And then you subscribe to it, like the rest of the team subscribe to that channel. And that's when you start getting those little real-time notifications. And we can throttle it, right? So we choose to be able to say, leading into an event, let's just slow down and only do them periodically. And as you get closer and closer, okay, do it every 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or do it real time. So it just gives us complete control over the notifications. Did that answer your question? How did I do, Grant? Can I work in IT now?
Yeah.
Do I get promoted? Is it a promotion to go to IT or a demotion? I'm not sure. I want to just put that out there for everyone.
Yeah. The trick, I think it was a bit of a tease to tease people with a totally custom developed tip right up front. But so I'll try to give a tip later that's that anyone can use. But yes, that is generally how it works. And because we're able to store the data, then we already know what the values are, so that when it changes, we can compare the values. So we can say that, this session title changed from this to this at this time. And so that's something that we have found valuable for our events. So
can I ask a question?
Yeah,
please.
Is it only the notifications that you get? Is it only when like an event's a user, one of your team make a change, or is it when an attendee makes a change, or both?
Yeah, it's both. Yeah. So it's when the data changes. Yeah. So
that's something
we see
we get facilitation information because we facilitate people through the airport when they arrive in country, and then obviously if they go in and change, they're not on this flight anymore. But so we set up alerts for like a submit action anytime, it gets amended, and it will tell them who it is so the people can go in and have a look, but they've got to try and sort of figure out what's changed. It won't be specifically only that a change has occurred, not what the change was.
What was it? Yeah.
I think that was the key motivator for us is, as I said, there are some great notifications in EA, but they just don't give us enough information. So you find yourself going to hunt for, okay, what was it they actually changed? Whereas this
delving into the change log and spending, and the change log will be what someone might have done, but then also like there's user reports, and it's just, this is obviously incredible to see this real time activity. It's very exciting. And I think as well with Grant talking about like session name changes, I think just talking about the API in general, because it's something that I'm learning about too, that I think is really interesting to plant the seed, the people that know that this is possible with the open API, that, Grant's able to do things on site like control the session slides in a central location using that API and that integration to be able to change the name of a slide and it automatically updates on the screen, or control the door signage. It's really interesting just to see the possibility that there is in being able to integrate into other on-site tools. I'm finding that really fascinating and exciting.
Yeah, I guess one of the hopes for the time that we spend each week together is just to know a little bit about what's possible, not necessarily having to know how to do it, but the fact that events have made the data available from an application point of view, meaning that it can be requested. So that the idea, Emma, that you could, it's not actually pushing an update to say something's just changed. The difference is that I'm just checking I tend to do it every half an hour at the moment. Every half an hour, what's changed, and it'll say this is this record's been updated. Every group of data, if you think about contacts, presentations, sessions, functions, all of those different sections of groups of data, every item of those has a last updated time stamp and by who. And so by me saying, hey, what's changed in the last half an hour, it'll spit me out and say, here's the ones that have changed. And so now, okay, a contact record has changed. We've had an interesting problem. We still haven't totally got to the bottom of it, but every now and again we'll get the whole address of someone as an attendee placed in the city field, right? Which you wouldn't think it'd be much of a problem, except that we use that data as an output on our programs and things. And so what we want to say is that Professor Sarah Allen is from Victoria, Australia. Well, now it doesn't say that. It says Professor Sarah Allen is on 13 First Avenue, right? And that gets pushed out into a program. Just because if the data flows through like that, well, now that's a major problem.
And that's why we use custom fields so much, is because you can't lock that stuff down. It's so frustrating.
Yep. Yeah. So, but it's an example of, Emma, when you're asking about whether we're getting attendee data changes as well. Yes, because that contact has changed. Now it comes through, and just a couple of days ago, again, I had it where it was like a street address came in the city field, I'm getting
the same thing, but in country. It'll have like 13 Smith Street in country, and I'm like, it's a literal drop down. How are you typing?
How is that possible?
How is it happening?
Now, I think there's a couple of things that could be happening. One of those is the autocomplete in browsers. And so it's going through and it's like, oh, is this the address you want? And it just fills it out. This looks like an address field, and away it goes. Now, I don't know whether Events Air are not naming those fields correctly, and so it gets confused, or whether just the autocomplete, browser functions are being wacky. The thing that I have in place is that I don't need any numbers in the city field or the country field. And so I'm able not to store that, at least. So now we don't have numbers, and it also shouldn't be super long. A city shouldn't be, 30 characters. And so I've got that, but that's a safety net that is in place from our side, but that's not within Events Air necessarily. That's just me looking at it afterwards. And so, but there, that does seem like a funny one. And it would be nice if in the registration form, it's kind of looking for that and saying, this doesn't sound like a city, or this doesn't sound like a country. Why is there numbers in that? Sarah, to your point about, why allow numbers in a country field, or a city field?
I think I remember raising it with Events Air, and it was definitely that it was that auto filling thing that was the auto thing in. Did you like that?
Yeah,
that was the
very
issue.
Technical.
Thank you, and that's why I've started using custom fields for when I'm looking at demographics to really lock that down, because the autocomplete doesn't actually recognize it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's also the other one that comes up quite often that is really, you always going back to the change log, is the people who think it's a great idea to share a reply registration link with their mate, and then their mate goes and registers and overwrites their entire record, and then wonders how that happened. And I always sit there and think, does someone not, when they see the form pre-populated with their colleagues' details, what universe would you go, I might just write over the top that? But it happens all the time. It's surprising how
We
it
have it
happens.
the same, Fleur, and we've even done it like we allow people to register for masterclasses and do the same, we've had to put on the form like in bold, like if your details are not displayed below, please email us, and still they will type over it. Yeah.
Still do it.
Well,
It's mind-blowing.
that's my hot tip then, is the way that I do all of my auto log, all of my reply forms, is I lock the first name, last name so that they can't. And this is an invitation for this person. And that has drastically reduced that happening.
It's a good tip.
Thank
Good
you.
tip.
Can I
like
just
that
add
one.
to
I
that?
would use that one. Yeah.
I do that a lot. Sorry, hi, I'm Francie. I don't know lots of you. But I do that a lot because I'm working with people at the moment who are doing lots of like invitations, but it doesn't work because often they're like, we need a blank link because we want to send that out to people who need to enter their details. But there is that other option in there that says that data is not available, not editable after the initial one, which you can use as the alternative for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do read only all the time.
We do that as well with those fields, particularly because we do like a staged registration, as in the first part might just be who's coming. Then in that comms, they'll say, please go in and let us know which functions you'd like to come to. And in that's where we'd lock it down so that they know who they're. A lot of the times for our people, it's a staff officer or something registering or doing the updates for a bunch of people. So we use that as well so that they know it's very clear who they're actioning at what point.
Good stuff. Love it.
Well, that was a tip at the far end of the API spectrum. So something on the more basic level, I reckon we should do a vote afterwards that I think for an entry user or someone that's often working on multiple events. Here's a tip for that. And that is, I religiously go in and immediately, as soon as I create an event, go into my profile account and go into the edit the online account area and nominate the same password. Now, periodically I go and change them all, so it's all secure and safe. But when you're working on multiple interactive sites and mobile apps and the like, it's always the same email with the same PIN number that I've set up, which means it doesn't matter which portal I go to. It always just goes straight in with my cached one. And then every few months, I just go and change them all. Super easy.
I'm a little bit bad and I just use my email as the username and password for any portal that I'm doing.
One@one.com.
Yeah.
That was an Events Air one.
Yeah,
EA taught me that one.
a@a.com.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
If you ever see a one@one.com, it'll be Events Air testing.
Yeah.
Love it.
And they're listening, so now they've changed that.
I've got a few little tips, which are probably more for people who don't not super experienced users. I kind of want to make it a bit more generic. The first one is around custom fields, and that instead of using marketing codes, where possible, use custom fields because they're available in every export, standard and comprehensive. Because we have the modules like the presentations and the sponsorship and exhibition, which frustratingly are not available in comprehensive export. If you've got the more fields you've got in custom fields, you can pull those contact custom fields into the sponsor and exhibit and presentation module exports. So I just find custom fields didn't exist. How many years? I don't know how many years ago it is, but I certainly remember the days where we used marketing fields for everything because there wasn't custom fields. And we were really limited in getting the information out. So I think custom fields, I always think about them from an output perspective more than anything, how you use them. So it's one of my little tips.
Can I ask a question on that one, Fleur?
Yeah.
Have you got around the one thing I find, and I do the same thing, but the one thing I find really frustrating is that when you add a custom field, that when you pull out like a comprehensive export, it has that custom field against like every registration type rather than just where you've used it. So it ends up coming out multiple times. Or do you not know what I mean?
I haven't really hit that, but
Oh, okay.
it's probably maybe just because of the type of fields
Yeah.
I'm using.
It's mainly in marketing that I've used it as an extra.
Yeah.
And then it comes out against every marketing question which means that you get like, so when I've done like a do you want travel information, do you want flights, yes or no, and then done the detail, ask for details as a custom field, that travel details then comes out against flight details other, or whatever I called it, comes out against every marketing tag. Just yeah, it's just annoying. That's the only thing that I find. But it is, and the other thing that I've also discovered, just so adding a tip, is that when you're importing data, that you can add contact custom fields
Exactly.
as a drop down or as a text field, but drop down's really good because then you can filter on that stuff as well, which is
It's awesome.
huge.
I love the fact that you can import the custom contact fields, and that's probably why I tend to be either contact custom fields or presentation module custom fields are really the only two that I regularly use. But yeah, it's fantastic because it's like being able to get so much more information in about people. I've done a couple of clients where I've looked after their membership and taken it on from a different organization who had it all in Excel and no actual membership system. And we're using Events there for it, so not using a separate membership system, and trying to manipulate Events there to get all the history of those people and all the right information, hugely reliant on custom contact fields to be able to get that, and especially using drop downs for their member status, whether they're active or lapsed, and being able to import that all in was good. It was a great system. So yeah, big fan of custom fields.
Can I ask a question again with about custom fields? So I guess I'll just throw it out to everyone. But so we use a lot of custom contact fields for precisely the same reason. We used to do it all in marketing tags, and then you couldn't order it in comprehensive exports, and now you can just make it exactly how you need it. But does anyone know if you can use custom contacts? I haven't had a good look into it in name badges because I was just playing with that and I couldn't.
Yes, you
find
can.
it. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you can.
It's a calculated
Yes.
field. Not easy, but you can.
Yeah, it doesn't. Even though it says custom, they're not sitting under there. So I haven't had a good look. It was literally what I was playing with before I jumped in here. But the context, I guess, for us is that we have a lot of groups who register, and because they're a lot within the same, so, if you're working for the Department of Defence, but you might have 70 different delegations coming from that, and I don't want everyone's group registration, which is tied to organisation, to just say defence. I want it to have some actual meaning. So we've changed organisation to be something else, but we still want organisation for a name badge. So I was trying to work out whether I set that up as a custom contact, but then I couldn't spot easily where that could be dragged into name badge.
We do custom contacts for we print pronouns on badges, and we've also started doing country, not just when I say country, I mean like country as in like what lands, traditional lands you're on. So it's worked really well for that. The only thing is if they don't put anything, it's hard to kind of lay your name badge out. You have to play with it a fair bit. And then if you're using a drop down as well and you use like our pronouns, we had I prefer not to answer.
And then that's
yeah.
So, and you're doing it through a calculated field, Sarah? Is that how you're getting it into it?
I don't have time to do name badges anymore. I bought on a reg manager, but yes, that's how I used to do it, was a calculated field. I'm pretty sure that's how we would they are doing it.
Yeah. And I think that's the same. We would say the same for a lot of us. We don't regularly go in and do badge design, or we do it the same every time. So when you do have to add something different, like last time I had to do a calculated field, I got sent in to send me a how-to on it because it gets so tricky and it's so easy.
Complicated.
I did with pronouns and things like that. I've tended to steer to user fields 1 through 4 because they're easier to pull into reports and name badges. So
clever.
I just nominate. There's another hot tip. I nominate
I'm gonna change
one
over
of those user fields for pronouns or for anything that goes on a badge. I try and make my life as easy as possible, but Emma, yours would be, knowing all the departments of defence and all that, having a defence husband. I can imagine what you're having to do there, and yeah, calculated field is probably the way you're going to need to go.
Yeah, although from my quick play with it just before jumping on here, I actually went to the user-defined fields and I thought, well, they do show up for the name badge.
They do.
And there is one called department in there. And I
There
thought,
is.
well, why don't I just call it that, and that can be their organisation,
Yeah.
because we just have, so many different delegation groups from overseas or from within Australia. And everyone just calls themselves the same thing, like defence.
Yeah.
And then when you're trying to sort out who's in whose group, it's not
Yeah.
helpful. But yeah, those I always forget
Yeah.
about user-defined fields. I'm like, oh, they're all
There's
sitting there.
more of
Just
those, and there's department, and there's external ID as well. There's a few that you can use that actually will naturally go into a report in a badged way easier. So love it.
Question on the user-defined fields, me again.
Yeah.
Because the reason I stopped using them is because I'm a contractor now, so I don't work with Events here regularly. Used to work for PCO. So when I used to use them, it used to in spreadsheet and comprehensive export, it'd come out as user-defined field rather than the
So
name.
annoying. Yeah.
So that isn't different.
It hasn't
Yeah,
changed.
okay, that's annoying.
No, whatever you call
That's why I
it
stopped
was,
using them instead of custom fields.
which I totally get, front
Yeah.
It's usually for me is like which devil do I want
Yeah.
more, to change the export name and tell the client that's going to call user to field 1 on your
Yeah.
report,
Yeah.
or am I having to put it into a name badge? And usually I'll choose what's easier for me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, cool. Thank you. I just wanted to clear that wasn't something. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next step for that for myself was then going into APIs and what I need to look at that and what comes through the API, because our name badges for some events go through the API to an external agency and it's their name badge printers and everything that we use. So I'm like, well, it's all great for me to decide to use whatever I want, but if I can't actually make that work on the ground, if a custom field won't go through the API, or a department, user-defined field won't go through the API. I know I hassled Events Air at the last conference about dietaries not being through the API, and they finally pushed that through. It was February or March, I think, just before my event, so that was really good. But yeah, I'm not sure what goes through the API at the moment. More investigation.
Yeah, I would just say on that too that there's two parts to it. One is what Events Air makes available, and then it's also on the company that's receiving that data to have implemented it to where they are looking for custom fields, for example. And so, yeah, it's worth it. The user-defined, in fact, one of the things about the way that Events Air have done the API, I think it's helpful to know, is that you have to request every field that you want. So it's common in other systems to just say, just give me everything, and everything comes, and then they deal with the data however. Whereas in this way, which is it is a newer common way of doing API integration, and that is to request the specific fields that you want. So the user-defined fields are available there. We use them. I can't remember what we use them for, but we do use them for something. And we've got them where they are a main sort of contact field. And then the custom fields, when you request, you can say, just give me the custom fields, and it will give you all of whatever the custom fields are for contacts, as an example. So it'll give you the title and then the value of each of those. And so it depends on whether the printer have built in the ability to see custom fields, to bring those in, and then to be able to use those as placeholders on a print. So it's just from my experience of playing around with it. So they might have done that, or they might be ignoring custom fields altogether, which is possible too. So
Thank you. Yeah, that was the part I thought, well, I can set it up how I like on my end, but I actually need to have a chat to them to say, can you pull this through? Can you see it?
Yeah, can you see it?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, whether it's a custom field or whether it's the department in the user-defined fields, yeah, especially at the moment because I'm helping another area within defence do their event and it's with the same external people. So I'm like, I sort of want to play and figure it out, but I don't want to do it to the detriment of this area that I'm supposed to be helping, not ruining their event, hopefully.
Just a geek alert, but this is the documentation for the API, and I'm just looking at contact. But what I was seeing here is department. So that is a field that is already available. So the custom fields, as we said, is there. Dietary is there. Thank you. And so
fields, are they there?
And then so the here.
User fields 1 to 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So you can sort of see a little bit more about what is available.
Awesome. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Sure. No worries.
So I'll jump into one more tip and then I'd love to pass it around for other people's tips. Mine would be the use of packages for auto-applying social function entitlements to sponsorships, so that when someone buys, say, a gold sponsorship and they're entitled to 10 tickets to the dinner, if you've already got that function code set up, you create a little package with the 10 tickets, and as soon as they buy that sponsorship package, it applies those 10 tickets to their record. And it's just to cover yourself that you haven't forgotten to assign those social function tickets to the sponsor. And then you get on site and you're like, oh gosh, that's right, our dinner's full, but we've got 40 seats for sponsors. And it sounds like a really basic thing, but you'd be surprised because your sponsorships tend to go on sale 9 to 12 months out from the event, and maybe you're not thinking about table allocations and things like that at that point. So the use of packages, it just allows you to flick on anything that's relevant. And the other thing that, obviously, if you're using the sponsorship and using the portal, you can use the entitlements library and inclusions and manage through that. But sometimes I will create a function code for something that is an item that I need to receive, like an advert for the app or a push notification or something like that I physically need to get from the sponsor. And I'll set it up with a default of like the function code being, say, push notification or advert, and the subcodes being received, not received. And so I would put it in the package of things that are adding to that sponsorship to say not received. And then I would update it once I've received. It just means that I can filter on that through to send reminders up those items. Obviously, you can use the inclusions library in a similar way. You can check off when things are finished in that. But just sometimes I've found that's a useful thing. But definitely for social function entitlements, just getting those things in. And you find out later who they get assigned to, and you can move them from that record to the record that they're going to go to, but just make sure you've got them in at the beginning. It's really important. It's a way of using the software to make sure that you do it.
Blair, what do you do if the sponsor doesn't use all of them though? Like, so if they, because they don't necessarily bring 10 people if they've got 10 people allocated.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to allow for the entitlement that they could change their mind, because that is part of their package and they're sold as you get 10 tickets, and they could absolutely turn up on the day and go, oh, but I'm allowed 10, so I've got my 10. If you had a discussion with them and they said, no, I definitely only need 6 out of the 10, I would then just manually edit that in the system and take it down to the 6. But it's pretty rare that happens because it's part of what they pay for. It's one of the benefits they get from the package. It's pretty rare. I've not personally had that scenario ever.
Yeah, I mean, I often have a lot that don't use their full allocation. I try not to sort of, I mean, I'm just conscious of food wastage and stuff like that when you
Totally.
know, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, when it's bundled in, it's kind of like an expectation. I've just seen the opposite. I've seen people forget and then a week before go, oh my goodness, what are we going to do there? And actually have to add tables to a floor plan that's full, or
Yeah.
it gets, you know,
Yeah, that's a worse problem to have.
it's a definitely a worse problem
Yeah.
to have. Yeah, yeah, but yeah. I would love to go around the room and people offer a tip if they've got one. If they've come, you know, I've got a couple of others up my sleeve that I'd love to hear from other people rather than hear my voice today. So Francie, do you want to start?
Thanks, Blair. I've already given some. No, it's a real simple one. Again, this is probably, I don't know if it's kind of good for people who've been around for a while. And I only learnt it not that long ago, is that when you are copying and pasting a load of ID numbers into a filter, that you can now just copy and paste from the column from Excel, paste it directly into the ID field. You don't have to change it
commas
into comma
needed.
separated
It's great,
anymore.
isn't it?
It's so good.
Yep.
So that's my tip that is different to what it used to be.
Yeah, it's good. It's great.
Good one.
Thanks for that one. Sarah, I know you had one about the first and last, but you can't tell me that you don't have another one up your sleeve.
I will, like, it's really interesting just listening to people, and it's like, oh yeah, and I do that. I bet you other people don't do that thing. So when I was listening to Emma talk about dietaries, I use the dietary portal, and for the last 3 years, every venue has said to me, this is the first time I've ever seen this. So my first one is use the dietary portal because it's great. But then actually what I do is I create a standard export, and I add in all of my accessibility requirements as well. So I tell them that's their dietary and accessibility, and that's all sent to the venue, and I don't have to recommunicate that.
I love the idea of adding an accessibility report into that. I am going to say I've only used the dietary portal in the last 6 months, and I love it. Absolutely love it.
Really?
Amazing. But yep, just hasn't been something kind of delved into. And I think that's the thing with the feature-rich product is that these new portals come out, these new apps come out, and we might not go into them because you're so busy just doing it the way that you always do it. And I think, you know, there's another hot tip. Always, always look with fresh eyes. There's such a that we always lean to, well, this is how we did it last year, so let's clone it and let's do it the way we did it last year, and that's going to save us time. But the software is changing all the time. Things like the conditional form logic that came in, the logic on fields that came in, every time it changes, we have to change with it, and we need to stop and think, okay, is there a better way to do that? Or the dietary portal, honestly, I missed that it even came out for a long time. And then I went,
Fleur.
oh,
It's
wow,
my
that's
favorite.
amazing. And it's probably just in the role that I was sitting at. I didn't have to know, I didn't have to see it. And then when I discovered it and introduced it to another couple of clients, I was like, oh, this is a game changer, so good. So
And like every venue has said how amazing it is. Like we were just at ACC, and they were like, do you know how many people still send us spreadsheets? And I'm like, first question when you're signing up a person is, do you use Events Air? Great. I know that there's a portal. You need to set that up. And I found that, like, that's one of the first things that I give them. And I'm like, I don't want to look at it. And the other thing that we do to talk about form logic is I always ask a marketing code around, do you have accessibility and dietary requirements, to force them to answer that. And the reason that I do that is maybe because of past clients. And I know that there's a couple of people in here who have worked with my past clients, who used to think that it was funny to put, I just need red wine, haha. And I'm like, that's not a dietary requirement. I don't care that you need to drink red wine. You're not funny. You're not funny.
yeah.
So I do that as well, so that I know that the data that they're getting through is, they're not getting stupid stuff like that either. And it is forcing them to think, do I have an accessibility requirement? Anyway, that's my hot tip.
Tracy,
I actually downloaded the dietary portal for the first time the other day, and I haven't set it up yet because I thought, oh, I'm going to try that. But does it break it down by, if you've got like one day that's for some people and then another day that's for different delegates, is that clear?
So it's tied into when you set up the registration type, you can set up the dietary date attached to that registration type. So if it's a day registration, it will pull through. You can also, it drills down to functions, so you can then have an individual report for a particular function. Where it doesn't quite get there is if you had a registration, say, for a workshop day, and some people are coming to morning and some people are coming to afternoon, and you're trying to, we know a shared client that is online, that needs to find out for morning tea, lunch, and afternoon tea on that day where we had 100 workshops, how many people are we catering for? And that got a little bit more complicated. But in general, like being able to plug in the registration type setup, what dates the dietary is applicable for, gives you the dietary per day on that. So it's really cool.
Cool.
But that has to be, you have to remember to set that up when you set up the registration fee types. And a lot of people, but you can do it retrospectively. You can do it months down the track, but it's just something you try and remember when we're setting that up. So,
because even the reports require that.
The catering stats report requires it. Yes, it does. But the dietary portal it's so good. That's been my biggest excitement for the year, I think, was finding that.
And the venues love it because they can then, when they log in, they can run it like a month out, and then as they're getting closer, what it does is they can filter it to show me what since I last like a date range. Yeah. So they love it. So and adding accessibility, and I do need to say that it's really, really handy because then you're not forgetting to tell the venue about your accessibility requirements.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to use that. Love it.
The other thing where it falls down is if you've got a client who's decided they want, if they've got a 3-day conference and they want to offer Monday and Wednesday, day 1 and day 3, it doesn't work for the breakdowns of the days because you've got a day in the middle that it's not counting. So it's,
So they're only catering on the Monday and Wednesday?
No, so they've got different options. So they've got full conference, and then they've got day only, and then they've got day 1 and 2 and 3.
It's not a Monday, Tuesday, it's a Monday, Wednesday reg. Why do people do these things?
I don't know.
Well, I love that.
Also difficult for name tags as well. Why did they do that?
I know.
Sorry, that was just a whinge. I was just joining into the whinge.
No, it is. And for name badges for that, like what I've done is created a marketing code for the name badge category, but then had to make sure that the right one is applying on for it's definitely with name badge categories, if I am going down the marketing code route to get that onto a name badge, I add that as a submit action on the registration form so that the right name badge category is on right from the beginning, and then the delegate services team aren't having to think at the end, I'm going to have to add all the right codes into that, but that's a whole another process. Annabelle, you've been quiet, my lovely. Do you have a tip for us?
Well, no, not really, because I'm learning a whole different area of events there in accommodation with my new role. So yes, I'm just, and I haven't got any tips for that as yet, but if anyone else does, I would love them. But yes, I'm just getting my head around that area and hotel portals and all of those fun things.
Yeah, it's a big change. Annabelle's come from being a conference manager at Waldron Smith, and now she's gone off to work for another organisation. And at your previous role, you had a team who specifically looked after
did all this stuff for me. I didn't have to worry about any of this.
It is a whole new world there. The hotel portals are great though as well. They're fantastic.
They are good. Yeah. If the hotels use them, they are good. Yes.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. But no, sorry, no tips.
I'm just going around everyone. Lara, have you got a tip for us?
I don't, but I didn't know about the dietary portal, so thank you for that. But I was just having a look at that while you were chatting, and I can't work out where that's can I ask a question, is perhaps instead of a hot tip, is that to get your content, that's getting your dietaries from the contact information. And then when I was just looking at one there in the settings, there's absolutely nothing in the settings. Is there something else I need to click somewhere else, or is that within the registrations themselves?
In the registrations
and the functions as well?
set up down, just in the registration down the bottom, there's a dietary thing. It will then automatically, if that person's got a function, it will recognize that function has got a catering as well. So it kind of all ties in like that.
Cool. Love that.
Yeah, it's a very limited, like I was the same when I first checked it out. I was like, am I missing something here? There's not really settings to turn on.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, the ACC would hate me because I just sent them an Excel spreadsheet. So
they're going to ask you next question. They're going to be like, where's the dietary requirement portal? Because I said to them, you tell them.
Yeah. I don't know about a hot tip, but I always wonder why there's not a drop down for the states, for the state field. Like there's a drop down box in all the contact fields, but not the state. Have you covered this already? And have
so if you put the country first, then the states will drop down.
Hello.
Correct.
Well, that's a good tip.
But I don't like that, so I just don't do that.
I don't know. I also wondered why they put the country first. So that's why. Hey,
the state is attached to the country. So if you choose the United States, it knows to put all the states in the drop down from that, but the country has to be filled in first. And I've always had that question from clients saying, well, why is the country before the state? And that's the reason.
Right. Okay. Well, novice. Good work. Thank you. I don't know about hot tips. I just love using logic in the forms though. And so I don't know if you'll use the logic a lot. And I just think even for filtering out between different membership types and stuff like that and various functions and stuff, I just think that just saves so much time for the end user.
It's so good. I use Logic quite a lot around the state, actually, when doing Australia and New Zealand conferencing. And so I'll do Logic at the page submit saying if you have chosen Australia but not chosen a state, that way I don't have to make the state a required field. It's only required if you've chosen Australia because New Zealand doesn't have states. So otherwise it's weird having that as a required field. And it depends on what you're doing on name badges at the end result, but that's often why I do it. Love the logic.
And my only other thank you also for the user fields. I'd sort of forgotten about those as well. And just a chat for another day is why the reporting in presentations is just so terrible, and why we have to create our own. But that's for another day.
Yeah.
How do you use that, Lara, or what would you like to be able to do?
I use export, but more I use it as a quick snapshot for highest to lowest scores and bits and pieces. But I don't know. I think I need some more lessons on making all of that. I think I missed last week's talk about the review.
Are you using it in the reviewer the workflow portal or in
do you know what?
Because the workflow portal reports on presentations
might be better.
They're so much better. And I would love to know why they're not actually in.
Yeah.
Because I will go looking for them and I keep forgetting that they're not there and they're just in the workflow app. Lisa's nodding along. Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like I probably asked her this question.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good tip too.
Yeah, the workflow portal has some great, and you can do it by individual. You can do it by presentation where it goes across and it gives you all of the reviewers, or you can do it by each individual reviewers, which would go down. Am I saying that right or am I wrong? Yeah, good. Okay, good. Yeah. They're a lot better. That reporting is quite good.
Okay, cool. That's good. Thank you.
And also just out of AirDrive, AirCloud, just straight out of there, you can export, like if you exported everyone who is a poster presenter on the document, it will tell you what session they're in, what time and everything like that in a really nice, simple format in Excel as well. It is, I would agree. The reports and the presentation module in general needs some love, but there are a few other options. Lisa, we haven't asked you yet, have we? For your hot tip?
I always use Sarah as my hot tip. Just use Sarah. No, it's quite good. Like I think for a lot of us who don't work for PCOs or work for an organisation, to share your reg forms with people outside. It's just Sarah and I did it with a group of us, and it was actually really good to just see different tips that other people were doing for their reg forms, just see how it was used. This one might be a beginner kind of one, but I love it because we have so many merge docs and we number them. So, and we group them. So like, you know, the ones that you're sending all the time, paid invoice, confirmation, they're all like number 1, number 2, just because I will remember numbers instead of what I actually called the merge doc. So we do that. But then we even number all our interactive sites, all our portals, just so that then they actually be in the order that we want them to be, not the way that it is by the alphabetical. That's probably my only one.
And we also build it because like I'm not in a PCO either. Like Lisa and I obviously work in the same association industry. So we will always have the same signatures for all of our comms, because it will always come from the comms and like the conference and events team. So we actually create the signature up front and build all of the, like, change all of the language in that merge doc. That's the first merge doc that we build. And then that becomes our like star signature merge doc, and then we clone that every time so that all the language will always be right.
Yeah.
And that works a treat for us, especially with sponsors and exhibitors sponsors who get like proudly brought to you by and have its signature byline. It means that our signatures always include it and we never forget to use it.
Yeah, that's a really good way of doing it. I was with merge docs as well, just to remind people that you can filter HTML sections. So you don't have to have, if you've got 10 registration forms, you don't have to have 10 confirmation letters. You can have one and filter each section on the HTML to do that. And even to play into that, when I have lots of registration forms, I'll do a submit action with a marketing code on the registration form of what registration form they used with the delegate sponsor, because then I can use that as the filter into merge docs where I'm sending them back into a reg form to make changes to their data. So yeah, it's always trying to find ways to make your life a little bit easier when you're dealing with lots and lots of forms. And obviously in PCO land, sometimes we'll have clients who have 10 different registration forms and it can get hectic. So yeah. EJ, haven't asked EJ a hot tip. You've been very quiet.
I'm first time here, so I'm just taking it all in for the moment, and wasn't prepared for a hot tip, but can certainly with the team put some stuff together for future meetings. It would be great. We're actually currently working with the Smart Connect, so we're going to join our events there with Xero. So we're just currently in the very early stages of that, which I'm very excited about. I was promised this when I went on maternity leave with my youngest child, and that was 7 years ago.
Oh, wow. I'm actually going down the same path as a client at the moment, EJ, and I'm only at the beginning of it. And I'm really interested to see how it works and if it changes our accountant's life or not, or it's going to be a really interesting process. And that client's had to go down that path because of the custom, all the custom work being phased out, and they had a custom report. And to replace that custom report around accounting, we have to do that smart connected to Xero. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's a whole new world for me too.
I'm so excited. It'll make, because we actually do the accounts as well. We have an accountant that does our GST, but we actually do all of the matching and reconciliation each month. So I'm hoping that my giant spreadsheet that we currently use will be much, much reduced.
Amazing. That's exciting. Emma, you've given us a hot tip. You have talked a lot about defence, but let's talk about your hot tip.
I didn't really come prepared with a hot tip, but I might have a little, tepid tip for
a cold tip. Yeah.
Tepid tip, I love it.
For Annabelle, maybe using the hotels and the accommodation, because that's something that I do quite a lot. One of my recent events was that we have got some delegations that we provide accommodation for. So we, actually just get them to tell us what dates they need, and then we provide that accommodation. So we sort of give that a hotel, like event hotel, and they select that. But for my last event, we had 3 different, because we had so many people, we had like 700 rooms or whatever that we were allocating out to people, 3 different hotels. And we called that hotel a very generic name, just, in the registration form, pick the generic hotel, and the date in and date out. But then what we do in comms is then put that auto login link. If you need to update any of your details, please click this link, go back in. But once we'd actually allocated the hotel that we were going to give them, say the Metropole or whatever, if they go back into that form, that hotel's not in that registration form. It's still got the generic hotel in there, and that would actually force them to cancel that accommodation request in order to make the change, even if they were updating a function. So once we figured out that was happening, that was a bit of an issue with trying to work out who's accidentally cancelled their request for accommodation because they've gone back in to pick a function. So I don't know if that's relevant in your world, Annabelle, with doing accommodation and things like that, but it was a red hot tip once we figured out that that's what was going on with actually allocating hotel after it's been a generic choice. So we then removed accommodation, and that auto login went to basically just like a function and contact details. So once you had your accommodation, it was a one bite of the cherry for accommodation allocation for someone in that regard. So anyway, that's, I guess, my very specific hot tip, which might be helpful, but that's it.
Amazing. Wow, Dior or Tracy, do you have any more that you want to?
I've got one that could be used every single day for that you're using Events Air, and that is to be able to auto login. So if you're using a password manager, which hopefully you are, and I suggest it from a security point of view, that you use some sort of password manager that means that you can use unique and really long passwords for all of your services. So I use LastPass. There's other ones called 1Password. There's a bunch of them, but the advantage on this one is that, and I think 1Password does it as well, right? So this is my password. It's all stored. I can generate it when Events Air says you need to change it. I can just change it, and it'll auto generate a new one and save it. But the cool advanced setting here is the auto login, right? So what's nice on this is if I show an example of being logged out, it's doing it. So it just did it, right? I was trying not to share all the events that we've got, but what it does is it not only auto fills the username and password, but it also submits. So whenever I go to Events Air, it just logs in. And you know how sometimes you log into Events Air and you're there for 10 seconds and then it logs you out? Sometimes that happens for me, and it just logs back in again. So that's by using LastPass. Not only am I'm not entering anything. Literally, as soon as it sees a login page, it enters and submits, and I don't even think about it.
Do you find that yours tries to autofill all of your other? Because I use Dashlane, and it tries to autofill all of these other fields.
Random fields.
Yeah.
So you sometimes, yes, but you can exclude certain domains as well. So you get used to it where you can go up to the page and just say don't autocomplete, or don't fill in these pages, and it starts to learn and stops doing it. So it's worth just looking into it, but because I think the auto login is pretty amazing, because there's a bunch of services that I've got like that as soon as I go there, it logs in. I don't even think about it. So And sometimes you might have multiple users, and different logins, and so you may turn off auto login, but at least you can still just select it and it logs in for you. So password managers is a cool thing, but it works nicely on Events Air. That's my tip.
Saved you 3 keystrokes.
Yes.
And a fraction of a second every day.
Every day, that's right. That adds up to minutes a year.
So good. Hey, I'm interested to know, I don't know if the hot tip should come before I ask this question, but I'm interested in everyone's thoughts on cloning events, particularly cloning large events, which I personally think is just wrought with disaster, but sometimes you just can't avoid it. And so the hot tip, I guess, if I go approach this from that perspective first, then I'll come back and get everyone's thoughts on cloning in general, I'm not aware of an easy way, if you do have to clone for whatever reason, to get rid of sessions. Like, it's painful deleting sessions. So here's a hot tip. Run a script and then go and get a cup of tea or whatever it is takes your fancy and let the script delete it all for you in the back end. We often find on a couple of occasions. When I say we often do that, I call Grant and say, can you run a little
Yeah, I was going to say,
I
don't have a Grant.
I was going to say, that's crazy.
How do I get one of him?
Can we call Grant too?
You're gonna annoy them.
Deleting every
Okay.
function type.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to upset everyone. But seriously, there are occasions where you're going to go, gee, the amount of effort to go and set up everything in the back end versus talk to your IT person or someone and to run a little script, you can keep it and run it again. We're talking potentially hours, right, on some large events when you've got to delete every single session. It's not because we're slow at clicking keys on the keyboard. It just takes forever for that little spinning thing to delete the entry.
Yeah.
You go, wait and wait.
Functions are worse because they've
functions
got
are terrible. Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do 100 of those and so much fun. Grant says, I've just got a script I've just done on the sessions. You're like,
yeah. It's not instant. I've still noticed that Grant could improve in that area, but but it is a lot quicker than me having to do anything. So bringing me back to my first point, right? And that is, so who does clone, right? Do you avoid it like the plague? Is there a tipping point between small events, not so bad? Just start from fresh. Is that the general consensus?
I would say for the other hat that I wear at the PCO that I work 3 days a week, I, about a year and a half ago, created a template database and we cloned from that. And that has the starting point of the reg form. It has every portal that we would need. It has every standard merge doc, but every single thing in it is thank you for registering for the conference/congress/ and then you fill it in. Because we've found that if we clone last year's event, there's too much risk of you having last year's event details somewhere in it. 2025 references and things like that. So we find, because we do 10 to 20 a year, it's very valuable to have that starting point of the template that's got, and we update if there's a generic change to say exhibitor briefing notes and we're going to change them across the board, we change the template and we know that going forward they're going to have the right things. So I think there's a place for cloning, but we are probably all guilty of just cloning because it's quicker and then not thinking about what's changed in the system since we cloned and how we could better it. So I'd say if you're going to clone, you still want to look with fresh eyes every time.
You do.
I would not clone a database at all, ever. Like, I think that I've had too many issues in the past, and I know that is very much, that's a bad mindset to have, but when you're a very small team, we just had too many issues.
Build from scratch every time.
But I clone all of my apps, all of my portals. Like, I'm happy to do that because you are saving time, but it's not like a whole
start from scratch.
And
on the occasions I have cloned, sorry, I was just going to say, on the occasions I have cloned a smaller event, I'm always mindful, and EA's, smashing out all these updates. And so I'm kind of thinking, oh my God, what's it going to do? Is something changed that dramatic that it's not even about the content or, having some some field information that refers to a previous event. It's more about how's the system going to perform and the unknown part of that. But I can't recall that ever being a problem. Like there's been nothing that I can recall on the occasions that we've cloned where we go, oh my God, it caused all sorts of problems. Couldn't say that perhaps 3 years ago, but of recent, it hasn't been a problem. But
I would say the same, Dior.
Yeah,
when the new app got released, I said to the team that I worked with, when you do your next app, we need to start from scratch. Don't go from the template app because that was built on the old. Like, just if there's been a significant change like that, start from scratch and give yourself a new updated template, I guess. But yeah, when you look at how many merge docs there are and things like that you're using, especially in PCO land, it's pretty useful to have a template to start with. Yeah.
It's sounding like the tip rings true and valid. Avoid cloning. See you, Lara.
Yeah, tricky one though, because some of the really, really large events that you and I know, having the starting point is probably saves you more time.
I do tend to clone, and I think I did an event this year that I didn't clone, and I had to start from scratch, and there were things that were missed because the clone, like when you do clone, like I feel like every year when you do an event, things get updated in that event because things do change in the system. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a fan of cloning because it's almost like a checklist for me. It's sort of like I know that I haven't updated or used that merge doc if it's still got last year's branding on it, and it's sort of like, okay, but I guess everyone, and I've never had an issue with the cloning. No.
So we did have we cloned 2 events, one around 200 people and one around 1,200, and it created, this was a couple of years ago, but it created all sorts of funky things in the website and the mobile app. It kind of layered itself on things. So we said no more. And now we just build by having 2 screens, and you've got the old form up, you've got your new build up, and you're boom, 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 boom. Yeah, it takes a little bit longer, but you've got that as a reference, and that's our new standard. We're a small team as well, and just having those boo-boos on a website or a mobile app's just really frustrating.
Yeah, I found in the past, not so much of late, probably because I knew the trick now. If I'm using the website and events there and I've cloned over, because it will clone the brands over. When you clone, it clones every brand over as well. And if one of those brands or the brand that's applied to the website that's come over doesn't have a favicon, that will cause all kinds of weird gremlins in the website and sometimes in apps and forms as well. Weirdly, even in a form where a favicon might not even be needed, if it's not in there, that was causing issues from cloning. But I mean, it also comes down to when you're launching your new event. So if you're launching your new event the week after your this year's event, sometimes you need to clone because you don't have time to start from scratch and you're about to, you've got to go live quickly. So I think there's cases for both for sure. But yeah, I haven't had, in the last 2 years, touch wood, haven't had any issues with cloning. It's been pretty friendly.
I never want to sort of gatekeep any information when we talk about it, and so I'm just happy to very quickly show that this is the API, and a delete session, you provided the event ID and session ID, and that's what still needs a developer to work it out, but I'm just saying that's what it does. It's a delete session, and that was the thing that we were talking about before, that takes forever. It was particularly slow at one point where it was like 20 or 30 seconds to delete a session. And so by automating it was less about the time. It still took 2 hours or something to do it, but it was automating it by just give me all the sessions and then and just loop through it and delete everyone. So that's how it was done. So Yep.
So Sarah, at the top of the session, when you talked about getting inside my brain because of Lego, I want to get inside Grant's brain and be able to do these things.
No,
Like,
I
it's
was
just
literally
really
just looking
simple.
at that. I know one of the girls that I used to work with has left and she's gone off and she's become a developer. And I'm just dying for her to. I said, you are an event manager, go in and like get this information and show of like I want her to go and sit in events there because I think sometimes they ask us questions and they're like, but why do you want us to do this? I feel like having her in there and developing, she would be like, well, they need to do this because of X, Y, and Z because she's that lived experience kind of
Yeah,
thing. But I too want
yeah,
to get in Grant's brain now. So let's go
yeah.
together.
It's a good brain.
Well, that's what these meetings are for, right? That obviously we're providing services to clients, but by us sharing all this sort of information amongst ourselves, it's been a great meeting this today because we've done lots of this, like talked
Been
about some things
awesome.
we're wrestling with, heard some shared tips and things, and this is just like rising tide floats all boats, right? And so that's what it feels like. And
I just
yes,
can't see
we're
the
doing
end
some.
game being that we don't all just become developers in some way, shape, or form. Like, and that scares me.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, not everyone's doing your 80-page document or something it was for,
82.
right?
82.
82, there you go. Yeah, I was
Do you
close.
want it?
But I tell you,
It is not fancy like yours. Trust me, mine looks like a piece of poopy because it's like inspect and open brackets.
we've just added a search functionality to our online program, custom online program that I'm pretty excited about. But I feel like it would just be another massive tease because it's like
a massive tease, Grant, but it's pretty cool.
What?
Can I see it? I want to see it.
Okay. Well, it's just I just put that disclaimer out there because it's like it requires us storing data and then displaying it in a different way that Events Air doesn't
Do it.
doesn't necessarily output, but I can show you.
But that's like my argument. That's what I always said. Like it's literally 82 pages of code. Like that's how it looks good. It doesn't do it by itself.
So
Wow.
this is works for any event now, this sort of layout. And so then you can select, and at the moment we've got the bios turned off. But if you looked at something, you'll see presentations. It's a panel.
Sarah's like open mouth, just like
That's present.
I'm glad that you noticed.
Presentations.
I did because I did the same when I saw it.
That's presentations.
Yep. And then how do they get the abstract? Do you display abstracts?
No.
Okay.
So then it'll be going to that app. I mean, we totally could. Totally could. The abstract.
We totally could.
The abstract is there. And so it's available. We just haven't got it linked there, but it could.
Because we're now in Java, isn't it? You're now at JavaScript to do it like that.
Yes, it's a combination of things. The big difference, this search is what's brand new. So still haven't actually made this public yet. So now you can search for a name of something, like a session title or something, or you could search for a theme of presentations, and it's all just live updating.
So now Sarah wants to live permanently in your brain.
Yeah, I do.
It's pretty exciting, isn't it? It's very cool.
So then you could search for a name of a person. So it's showing roles, and it shows the roles. So there you go, see the chair
versus the presenter.
Yeah. And then the presenters.
And that's so you've got in brackets there. How are you storing, like, so are you pulling multiple because you've got like
field.
Yeah, right. Okay, wow.
But then you could also search for people here. And so if I clear, so you can see all the people
who have something assigned
roles and presenters, and so you can do that. And then we have different session types and things as well, and so you can filter by that. So once it's displayed, it's instantly filtering it. In the meeting rooms, this is at ICC, so it's just what's happening in a particular room.
And so will
Um,
that search though? So it's searching the text it's searching. Is that searching because you're not displaying abstracts, that's basically looking at presentation title.
it's yeah.
Yeah.
Presentation.
Yeah.
Are you using keywords?
No. So it's at the moment,
I
it's
can push, you
all the
can't.
text.
Like I can give you all things that I need it to do. And it won't work for me, but you can build it for you.
The challenge, the trade-off is the load time. So
Yeah.
you saw when it loaded them, because all it's really doing is it's searching this data here, plus the location name is assigned to this, but it's hidden, and so the location will still search, but if you started putting abstract data, it's got themes. You can't see too many. There's not too many that we've added.
Themes or keywords? Because
No, so
themes you can't. How can you get themes? Because themes doesn't pull to anywhere.
Theme is tied to a presentation, not to the session, but to the presentation.
So it actually literally goes into the presentation and it searches for the theme that they select when submitting.
Correct.
Wow.
So that profusion is set at the presentation level, and it's going and checking all the themes for all those presentations in that session, and then displaying a alphabetized list. So that if you do go through and add themes to all the presentations, then they'll all display here and they will be searchable. And then all these colors, all the colors are coming from Events Air. So
agenda colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all agenda colors. So that's all set as the text and background.
There's 38 keywords in this particular event that sits in the database that we could, like Grant said, the data's there if we wanted to. We could pull on any one of the keywords that are sitting already in the system.
Well, yeah, I suppose
not in this particular design. Yeah.
Well, I use keywords because I can't pull theme onto the program. So if you're using that's how I always describe it. Theme is not a searchable thing, but if you can search it, then
yeah.
And the nice thing is then that a session, a session could have presentations that are different themes. So then the nice thing is that the presentation is saying that it's just this theme, but then another presentation has a totally different theme. So then displaying that at the session level and showing it while still maintaining that this presentation is this specific theme and this presentation is this specific theme is actually really handy to have.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still, the search functionality is still sort of building out. It took quite a long time to work out how to display concurrent sessions dynamically.
This is my forever conundrum, because my attendees want to see the presentation title on the program, if that makes sense. Like I can't use concurrent.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, so you're making every presentation a session.
Yeah. And then and that's why my coding is, that's why I have such long coding.
Yeah.
Because then I need to then color code everything so it looks like it's just a continuation, and still people don't understand it. So
and you're doing that across concurrent sessions as well?
No, concurrence I don't touch at all. I tried doing concurrence.
That's smart.
I went and looked into it again last year, because I abandoned concurrence about, I don't know, 6 years ago. And I can't remember why, but I ended up looking into it again. Oh, I think because of the way it displays in the app. But it was just like, then I was getting too much feedback around wanting to see. So I just ended up reverting back, which was just.
So you do have concurrent sessions at the event?
No, yeah, all of my sessions are concurrent. I just don't use concurrent
sessions. But she doesn't use the concurrent functionality.
Because I can't.
Yeah.
I need to have it showing the times. Because I have like an hour presentation running alongside a 20-minute or a 10-minute. And then I have to have, that's why I have like at the top of my program, I have like a guide to reading the program, and then they still don't read it.
Yeah, it is tricky when you have concurrents that are at different times. And so what I'm doing here is if a session is starting at a different time, it's not probably a good example there. It's not a concurrent unless it starts and ends at the same time. If it doesn't, then it shows on another line.
Yeah,
Like,
but then the
example,
problem
right?
is at the time then, so like for me, if I had like a 10:30 till a 10:45, but then I had a 10:30 till 11:30, they show on different lines, and then it doesn't sit nice and it just looks messy and
Right.
I think, Sarah, we tried to, like, build it so it looks all beautiful and that, and then we realized that so many of our delegates, even though we tell them, prepare, you've got so many concurrent sessions, prepare before you get on site, none of them really do.
No.
So now we just have, the nice looking PDF that our marketing team produce. We have it on big screens throughout the exhibitor hall, even up, and they're like people, that's where they go. And then they get to see all the pretty nice things.
Well,
and then I don't have to worry about building it to look nice, even though if I had Grant, I'd get Grant.
I know you're getting to do it all the time.
Yeah.
We get the reg manager to change over the check-in kiosks to be the program. And so then people can so then they get the website and it looks pretty. But yeah, I mean,
that's a good way to do it.
Well, I mean, it'd be great if it just did what I needed it to do as well. But I don't know. Yeah, that's an ongoing challenge that is a tale as old as time. Like I feel
admit,
like
though, doing the big TVs with the program on, because we used to, when I first started here, everyone was always like, I still want my paper program. And for us to print a paper program where they can see it all in one current, it's like an A3 piece of paper. So since we did the big TVs, we don't, I think maybe one person might ask for a paper program.
That's good. Yeah. So a similar output to this we did on an event which generated the PDF as well. So there's static pages, we call them. So the a comms department would still create 5 or 10 static pages that are always the same. And then there's events air generated pages and all of those. And so as changes happen, it just creates a new PDF and posts it to the website. So now they're always getting the latest data on that PDF. So it was a specific output designed for print. And that would be the next level as I think about an online program like this. Search was a big deal. So it's one thing to just be able to see the flow of the day is one thing, but to be able to search for something is why it was a brainwave that I had, that I was like, I don't know how to search across this display. So then I was like, why wouldn't I just display every session? And now you're just filtering, whether it's searching or filtering, you're just reducing, the number of sessions down to the, what you're looking for. But the next level again is, okay, now I want to print that. Because some people still do. And this is, it's the way of, I agree with you, Lisa. I think the screens on site, we do that as well. And we have a dynamic page that is displayed full screen on a 4K screen. So it's really high res. And so the text can be really quite small so that you can fit a lot on the screen. But as things, as the event goes through the day, it drops off the ones that have happened before. And so that you're always just kind of seeing what is now and what's in the future. So that's just automatically happening throughout the day. And then of course we can tie into all the room signage as well, the room information panels outside of each, so we can say what's happening. So now, I mean, convention centers like it because we can just say, here's a URL that you'll use for the whole event, and it will always tell us what's happening in that room and what's coming up. So there's a whole digital signage thing that we've built out over time as well. That's really nice. So I'm conscious of not trying to, rub it in all the time. Yeah, well, but honestly, I mean,
the signage sounds amazing.
We want to find a business model that would work for smaller events and things that you could use some of these tools, and I don't know what that is yet. But not just trying to sell, just trying to make more money or whatever, but we've made some tools that I think that other people would be interested in. So
yeah, it's a shame
always open to those discussions.
The venues aren't more open, because it's, when you travel it around, it's so different. Like, we're in Melbourne this year and they were like, we'll do your door signs for you. Give us the spreadsheet, okay? Whereas, the previous 2 years in Sydney and Brisbane, they don't. So it's sometimes it's just so annoying when you're traveling around. You have to remember, now door signs, who does that at this location? It'd be great if the venue's actually invested in doing it, making our lives easier.
And then the venues who will say, we'll do it for you, but if you want to change it more than twice in the day, there's a charge per change. And then you're like doing a sign for half the day, and then you've got a sponsor on a session, so I need a separate sign for that one. Like, see, I love the concept of the door signage control that Wallfly are looking at. I'm conscious of everyone's time.
Yes.
We're at 2 o'clock. It's been such a good session today.
It's good.
It's been just great. Like, that's what this is all about, is just sharing with each other. And it's awesome. Trace?
Sorry, I've just got one quick question about the dietary portal. Can you filter so only the awards dinner venue, for example, get to see one part of the functions? You can?
Yep.
How do you do that?
You're going to ask me where you turn that on, aren't you?
Yeah.
I need to go and double check that 1 second. And I know that you can do it because I forgot to turn it on.
I've done separate portals sometimes if it's I'm doing majorly doing everything at the convention centre, but then just one thing at a different venue. I've done a different portal for them just to make it a bit less confusing.
That makes
sense. That's it. That's how, Fuller, that's how I do it too.
Okay.
I've just gone in to double check, because then you kind of tick what functions show, but then just having those multiple
portals.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. I'll let it.
Good work. We need to say too that no one needs to be polite about staying or leaving.
Just go.
People float in and float out as you wish. So it's all.
I thought I was floating in 25 minutes late, and I floated in way too early. I started the meeting
90 minutes later. You're still here.
Loved it.
Okay, goodbye.
They are awesome.
All right, bye everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Bye everyone. Great stuff.